Board of Education to order. Mr. Anagnosky, please take the roll.
Mrs. Bissell?
Here.
Mrs. Salee? Here. Mr. Micko?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mrs. Hausum?
Here.
All present, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we have a number of recognitions, and it's, first of all, it's good to have recognitions again. It's been a while because of the COVID pandemic. Speaking for the board and the administration, we're all excited to have recognition again. It is one of our favorite parts of being on the board is to recognize the accomplishments of students. So we're so eager to do that. We are going to jump out of order and we're going to go to recognitions immediately. Dr. Ivo, you lead us off.
All right, thank you, Mr. Micko. Just before we begin, Ray and Scott, for some reason, it's not coming through the monitors, the sound for us, so if you could do something to tweak that. They're on, I could hear them, but are you getting sound over there, George, at all? No. So if we can't use it, that's fine. I'll just talk a little louder, but if you can mess with the monitors, that would be great. So we are very excited to start with our recognition. So I'm going to ask our high school principal, Mr. Bill Wingler, to come on up. Students, we are thrilled, whether it's athletics or academics or dance or whatever it may be, we're thrilled to recognize you, but in a time of COVID, we still have to socially distance a little bit. So as Mr. Wingler or your coach or advisor or Mr. Ziegler announce, what we ask that you do is when your name is called, please stand up. I know sometimes we don't like to stand up for a long time, but hang out there for a little bit because that camera right there is going to come and be pointed on you so we can get your image, we can get your name out there and celebrate you in the audience since we can't have you come up on stage with us at this time. So, Mr. Wingler, if you'd start it off for us with our National Merit honorees.
Thank you. I would echo Mr. Miko's comments, how exciting it is to be able to do this. Being the new principal, it is amazing to me when I came here, the number of high-achieving kids we have here. And tonight we're going to celebrate some of the highest. And I want to give you just a tiny little background of what it takes to be named tonight. So just to give you an idea of why we're here, the National Merit Scholarship Program has been around since about 1955. And every year of the 1.6 million students who apply during their junior year, only 3%, roughly 50,000, are commended. So the first group of students are commended students, meaning that they are in the top 3% in the PSAT in the country. First student is Miranda Lee. Next is Melanie Tyler. Ran Wee. And last but not least, Seth Welch. So the next group are the finalists. Now, to give you an idea of how much further they whittle that down, take that 50,000 and about 2/3 of those, 1/3 to 2/3 of those, somewhere between 15,000 and 25,000 students make it as a finalist, meaning we're talking about students who are in the top 1.5%. And in speaking to them, some of them got perfect scores on the PSAT and the SAT as well. First off, Matthew Cornelius. Nicholas Cyranek. Charles Lynn. Alexander Sakalari. Vardon Shaw. And last but not least, Kevin Whitbread. So just to wrap up, what I said in the beginning was, it is amazing to me, if you walk around the schools of this school and you walk into the over 80 AP sections we offer, the amount of talent academically in this school is overwhelming. I sometimes walk into these classes and I won't pretend that I can do the work that some of these kids can do, but it is truly amazing that kids leave this high school at the top 1% in the country, and we're very proud of you.
Thank you, Mr. Wingler. Next up, we have Coach Todd Church for a recognition for our soccer program. Todd?
Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here. Before I get started, I would like to personally thank Dr. Ryba and his administration team, Mr. Micko and the rest of the Board of Education, Mr. Wingler for the fine job he does here at the high school. And I've been here since 2005, and I will tell you that my direct report, Denny Ziegler, is the best athletic director I've ever worked for. He does an amazing job. I thank all of you very much for giving us a shot this year to have a season. So round of applause for these guys, please. I'd also like to say congratulations to the Merit Scholars. Congratulations to Coach Cunningham and the dance team, Coach Stacy and the swim team, Coach Rin and the gymnastics team, and Coach Basillo and the wrestling team. You guys have performed at an elite level in a year where it's been very, very tough. And for you to do that, you deserve a heck of a lot of recognition, so congratulations to all of you. I get the honor tonight of introducing, perhaps for the last time, I hope not for the last time, but for perhaps the last time, Shelby Salee. Shelby, I would love to have her up here with me, but this is okay. Tonight, Shelby is being recognized for being selected to the All-American team. The United Soccer Coaches Organization is the largest coaches organization in the world. Every year they select 50 to 55 high school student athletes to be recognized as All-American across the country. Shelby has now done it twice. That is a tremendous honor. And I will tell you, that she is the epitome of the student athlete. She is the epitome of what Denny Ziegler came here to set out to do in terms of the multi-sport athlete. She is that. She defines that. When you look at her 4.3 grade point average, going to Xavier University next year to play and study. I was lucky if I could visit Xavier, let alone get into Xavier, so congratulations. Multi-sport athlete. Listen, I will say that she may be the greatest female student athlete that's come through Strongsville High School. When you look at the academic side and then you start to look at the sports side, this is her third year of track. She went to the state finals in the 4x1 in track, and she'll be a 3-year letter winner, fourth if you count last year. I don't know what you do with that. She played 2 years of basketball. In basketball, she went to the Final 8 and the Sweet 16 with her team. For us in soccer, she was an impact player from day one starter, which is not easy to do in our program. Her teams that she was on went to the Final 8 twice, the state finals, and then state championship, and this year national championship. That's a tremendous, tremendous resume. And I will say that she is only our third two-time All-American. She is our only three-time All-Ohioan. She is now the leading scorer in Strongsville soccer history, career and season. That's just a tremendous run. So one more hand for her in that resume. But if I might, you can sit down, because just a quick little story about what makes Shelby great. Because a lot of times we just look at the resume, okay? But here's what makes Shelby great. This year, early in the season during a practice, we were going through a little scrimmage, if you will, and Shelby gets the ball as a forward, gives it to a sophomore forward, Taylor Demerly, who is just learning that position. And Taylor, being young and respecting Shelby, gives the ball back to Shelby when she clearly could have went to goal. We saw that as a staff, but we didn't have to say a word. Shelby jumped in right away and said, Taylor, you need to score that goal. That's your goal. And when a great player does something like that, give confidence to a younger player, that has so much more impact than coming from a coach. Your impact is that great, because if you look at the year that Taylor Demerly had, was pretty good. She, along with Shelby, scored in the state final. Taylor scored the game winner. Shelby scored the first one. That is what makes Shelby Salee a great, great player and a great person. It's an honor to have been your coach for 4 years, and I just wish you all the best, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Coach Church. Congratulations, Shelby. Coach Church, if there's ever a time in my life I need somebody to give a speech about me, you're first on my list, man. Awesome job. Awesome job. Next up, I'd like to bring our athletic director, Denny Ziegler, who's going to moderate us through and work us through the next series of recognitions. Denny?
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity. As always, it's tough to follow Coach Church after something like that. Coach Church kind of summed it up, and our winter sports season was something that we all thought was going to be very, very challenging, with all sports being indoors. And our coaches, our student athletes pushed through it, and I can probably say that we are, if not the school, one of the schools in the entire state that got through a full season of all games in all sports. And that just shows something for the dedication that we have from our coaches, our student athletes, and the willingness that they have to perform and to follow protocols and policies that we put forth. To recap the winter sports season just a little bit, we had 3 teams that were conference champs. We had 3 coaches that were coaches of the year. We had 3 players of the year, and we had almost 20 all GCC performers. That says a lot for the programs, the coaches, and our student athletes, and their willingness to work hard to get the best results that they can and to be the best people that they can possibly be and the best student athletes that they can possibly be. So at this time, I want to bring up Coach Cunningham and talk about the dance team.
The Strongsville High School dance team is comprised of 15 dancers. They're highly skilled, they're extensively trained, and they work very hard. I'm so proud of the team this year. We had a lot of obstacles. We dealt with a lot of different quarantines last minute and injuries and all kinds of things, and the team had to continuously redo dances pretty much every week. We were reblocking, redoing the formations, redoing the dances, and these students really stuck it out, and they worked so hard. They showed up every time, and I'm so proud of them because it paid off. We did really well. The dance team just started competing last year. We compete at the OASSA competition, so that's for the state of Ohio. Last year we competed at regionals and we qualified for states in one category. They have different categories in this. They have jazz, hip hop, pom. We compete in jazz and hip hop. And so last year we qualified in one category. This year we qualified for states in 2 categories, both jazz and hip hop, both that we entered. And we competed this year for the first time ever at states, and it was a virtual competition, so we had to have a whole day. It was a whole day. They were there from morning till night in the gym filming for both regionals, and then another day where we spent the whole day there filming for states. And so they had to work extremely hard and put in a lot of hours and dedication to this. So we submitted our videos, and we ended up placing really well. We placed 4th in the state for large group hip hop, and then we placed 6th in the state for small group jazz. So this was really exciting for our first team ever competing. This competition involves teams from all over the state of Ohio. There's a lot. We were excited that we even qualified for states, and then to end up placing as well as we did. It was a huge accomplishment. So I'm so proud of these students for all their dedication and hard work. They are so talented, but also really hard workers. So I'm really, really, really proud of you guys. I'm going to announce you one by one, and when I announce your name, you can stand up and then stay standing until the camera gets you, and then you can sit back down. So the first one is Isabella Abrazino. And then Natalie Arslanian. And Kira Calloway. Annalisa Crowder. Kelly Cunningham. Katie Diab. Reese Dombeck. Ella Graby. Aubrey Kosis. Caleb Kosis. Katie Sanick. Ava Seifert. Lucy Smith. And Lauren Steinberger. Okay, thank you.
At this time, I would like to call up Mr. Tom Stacy to introduce the swim team.
Hi, thank you very much for having us. We appreciate that. Along with what Coach Church said, I'd like to thank everybody in the whole school district for making this possible. When all this, a year ago, we had no idea what was going on. For swimming, it's been very interesting. We've been through a whole process of what we've done. When they first started back swimming, we only had like one person in the water in a lane at a time. Like, we were so careful. And then slowly just progressed through everything. But nothing ever looked like what they were used to, and they kept just working so hard through everything. They usually are on the wall and they get to rest. So many of them just, they'd have to fight for the spot on the wall or fight for the spot in the shallow end. They'd be treading water entire practices when they weren't swimming. So it was tremendous. And just what they had to get used to doing at the meets, they'd finish their race and they'd get right out exhausted and put their mask back on. But they were so good with all of it. They have so much grit. They work so hard. They were at the rec center in the morning, rec center in the evening, still doing all this stuff. They even had some journeys, some trips to train on a few Sundays, actually. And they did it, all of it. And I'm so proud of all of them for all the grit they showed. And they were very successful. The boys and girls teams both set records, school records for amount of wins they had in the season. Boys were 14-0, girls 13-1, both winning conference championships. In fact, the boys haven't lost since, December 2018 in the regular season, which is tremendous. So lots of success this season. These swimmers that made the state meet, very good season. The state meet looked a lot different, right? A lot less people. Boys and girls were separated, all sorts of things, and they stepped up and they did very, very well. So I'd like to recognize the people that made the state meet for the swim team. First, Jordan Hamoki. Jordan, she was conference MVP. She swam 4 events at the state meet, was all Ohio in all 4 events. She did the 200 IM and the 100 butterfly, was 5th in the 200 IM. She also did the 200 medley relay and 200 freestyle relay and was all Ohio in all 4 of them. So she had a tremendous season. Congratulations, Jordan. Next, Andrew Arslanian. Andrew, and then next would be Jane Zaleski. You can still stand up, Andrew. They both, so at the end of the season, they get to do 4 events. We had a talk, we thought we could do really well in our relays, and we could maybe make all of them, but they had to sacrifice doing an individual event, which they've done their whole life. They've done these individual events their whole life. And I just gave the idea to them, and then both Andrew and Jaden came up to me, tremendous leaders they are, and they're like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it for the team. We want to get more guys to the state meet. We'll do better in that. So they made all 3 relays, and Jaden and Andrew were both on all 3 relays at the state meet. And then they were all Ohio in the 200 freestyle relay. So congratulations, Andrew. And Jaden Zaleski. So once again, Jaden made the state meet in all 3 relays, sacrificed that individual to get there, and was all Ohio in the 200 freestyle relay. Congratulations, Jaden. Nick Begani. Nick made the state meet in the 200 the 200 freestyle relay, the 100 breaststroke, and 400 freestyle relay. Those events are all really close together. And without having the girls to give rest, he did events very close together and did tremendous. He was conference MVP and made state meet individually in the 100 breaststroke and was all Ohio in the 200 freestyle relay, all as a sophomore. So congratulations, Nick. Colin Peters. Colin made the state meet in the 200 medley relay and 200 freestyle relay and was all Ohio in the 200 freestyle relay. Riley Mayberry. Riley made the state meet in the 200 medley relay and 200 freestyle relay and was all Ohio in both of those relays. Congratulations, Riley. And then Alex Oclaria. Alex made the state meet in the 400 freestyle relay, and obviously combined with his amazing academic accomplishments, and the dedication he put in the pool and the time, and also to be great academically is amazing. Congratulations, Alex. And I'd just like to recognize we have a few people that couldn't be here today. Carrie Gavigan. Carrie Gavigan was all Ohio and made the state meet in the 200 medley relay. So congratulations, Carrie. Camille Merrimee, she made the state meet in the 200 medley relay and 200 freestyle relay and was also all Ohio in both of those. So congratulations, Camille. Emery Paul, she made the state meet in the 200 freestyle relay and was all Ohio in that relay. Congratulations, Emery. And then Noah Bruning, he made the state meet in the 200 medley relay. Congratulations, Noah. And one more thing, I'd like to thank the rec center for all they do. We swim out of the rec center, and they're tremendous. The fact that we could hold competitions, a lot of places were very iffy about that. We could have home fans. We at least had home fans at our competitions. And they were just very great about working with me. We start out with very few people out in the water, and we increased it as things were safe, and they worked hard, especially Patty Welker, the aquatics director, worked so hard to work with us and to make our season happen, to make our meets happen, to have a conference meet at our pool. We haven't had meets at our pool on a weekend in a really long time for the high school team, and last second to put that on and to support us in doing that is amazing, and I'm very grateful for them. Thank you, everybody.
This time I'd like to call up Coach Jen Hearn to talk about gymnastics.
Thank you all for having us and for recognizing our student athletes. Not only do I want to thank the athletic department for helping us to have such an outstanding season, but also our parents. Our meets this year were way different than in the past. We could only have one spectator per athlete, but bigger than that, our whole team could not attend meets. So instead of having 17 to 20 girls cheering on all of our athletes, it fell on the shoulders of one parent per student to make up some noise in these empty gyms. Our conference meet, sectionals, and district and state meet send-offs were outstanding. We had police escorts. We had our own horse mascot in the parking lot. We had pom-poms and fatheads and all that just cheering on our girls, and I really think that made the difference this year. Our team qualified out of the super competitive Northeast Ohio district by .025. And it could be any one of our girls, but I think it was the parents in the stands cheering and supporting us throughout. So I want to honor those girls. First is senior Cammie Merrill. Cammie was a state meet competitor on vault with a personal best score in the competition. Next is our senior captain, Cameron Laracy. And Cameron was an all-around competitor at our state meet. Amelia Sage. Amelia Sage was slated to compete 3 events at the state meet and unfortunately was injured in our first event. We thought she was cleared, good to go, and she competed a clinching bar routine on our last event. Found out 2 days later she competed on a broken foot and still came in with a huge score for us and helped us to finish 6th in the state. Freshman Ava Ketterer. Ava Ketterer was one of our leadoff gymnasts, putting in solid routines and being our beam starter at nearly every competition this season. Senior Sarah Schoenberger. Sarah competed vault for us in the postseason and floor at the state meet. Some athletes I'd like to mention who aren't here. We have senior captain Julia Spicer, who's actually coming home from oh, there she is. Coming right off of the lacrosse field.
Couldn't be any better.
Julia was one of our 2 captains this season and competed on vault and floor for us. Freshman Sophia Reines and junior Kelsey Capel. And then I'd like to recognize freshman Emma Hahn. Emma was not only an all-around competitor on our state team, but she also set the school record on the balance beam this season. And Brooke Zellers. Brooke was a junior all-around competitor for us at the state meet and also an individual qualifier, finishing 12th on vault and placing in the top 30 on beam. Congratulations on a great season, ladies, and thanks again.
And our final recognition for winter sport state qualifiers, can I have Coach Big Al come up to talk about Anthony Greco?
Well, I have one great student athlete. Well, first of all, thank you for getting us wrestling. If you would have told me last year at this time we were going to wrestle, of course wrestling is a contact sport, that we were going to do it, I didn't believe it. We pulled it off. I don't know how. Thank you very much, all of yous, because I know everyone's driving everyone nuts. Why are we doing this? Why are we not? So anyways.
Not here, Al.
No, that doesn't happen.
Not at all.
Yeah, well, Denny had less gray hairs a couple years
Yeah,
ago.
that's right.
And I think Todd, you must have gave Todd a raise. I know that. So anyways, back to Anthony. Of course, last year, Kenny Lambert qualified, and we couldn't do this for him. I want to mention him, and that's his partner, Anthony Greco. I could sit here and tell you how many takedowns he had and how great he was. He's a junior. I think 2 years ago he goes, "Hey, Coach, I'm going to go to state. I know we haven't had anyone in a couple years, but I'm going to be there for you." And Kenny the same way. The great thing about Anthony, people don't know, well, they do know how great of a person he is. Like I said, he came close of placing. I know next year he will place. I know that. I know Kenny will. I know we have several kids that will go to state. Our team's coming a long way. But Anthony, into the season, came up to me and said, the district finals, my sister's getting married. I go, oh boy. And his dad, about a month into the season, saw how good Anthony was doing. He says, well, I guess he's going to miss his sister's wedding. And then we're on the bus one day, and Anthony goes to me, I'm not going to be able to wrestle because I'm going to make my sister's wedding. I go, oh my gosh. And I said to Anthony, I go, well, it's all up to you. In wrestling, you don't just go out there, you're killing yourself, you're cutting weight, you're doing everything possible to make yourself miserable, and you get a reward by maybe going to state. So what happened was Anthony got into the sectionals, won the sectionals, went to the districts, was in the semis, lost. Then he had to win one match to go to state. So he won that match. He had his tux ready, went into the shower, took a shower, and went from Perry up in Toledo and drove home to his sister's wedding. Missed the third and fourth match, which meant a lot to him because if you finish first and you finish fourth, that's in the state, that's who you will wrestle. So he overcame all that. Just a tremendous kid, great family, and thank God they have tons of them because Dominic's coming in next year. I had David. It's like a lifetime. It's like I said, any of you girls, that's the guy to get, all right? So I want to thank you, and I really mean that. You can't find a better kid. That's why I do it, so thank you.
Thank you to all of our coaches, our advisors, Denny, Mr. Wingler, and congratulations to all of our students. No matter what, whether it's on the mat or in the pool or whatever event or academically, you make us proud with what you do and the time and the dedication that you put into school and your athletics and your craft, no matter any year, but let alone all that you had to do to overcome to have these outstanding accomplishments this year. And we appreciate the compliments that we allowed the students to compete athletically. That was the easy decision because we have trust and faith in our coaches and our advisors and our staff to do things the right way, and that's why we were able to have a season, is because we did things the right way, and our student athletes did everything that they needed to do to keep everybody safe and healthy. And so we could be here tonight to celebrate your accomplishments, whether, again, it be in the classroom and or in athletic competition. So once again, congratulations. Mr. Mickel, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ryba. I just want to, on behalf of the board, take the opportunity to thank everyone. I'd like to start by thanking the administration and the coaches for showing the guidance, being willing to have that opportunity to do it safely, but to also do it. And that was a choice for a lot of people, and I think based on today's results, we made the right choice to have the opportunity for our student athletes and our students, but to do it in a way that was safe and followed common sense. So I want to thank all the coaches for all their hard work and efforts. It is incumbent never to forget to thank the parents. If you didn't do the right things to allow your children to participate, whether it's the academics, whether it's the sports,
I think dance, I like dance because it's athletic and it's also artistic. So we cover all our bases here, but I wanted to thank all the parents for doing the right things and seeing what all that hard work lets us accomplish. Whether it's reminding them to do their homework, whether it's reminding them to go to practice or what have you, it bears fruit, it has results. I was going to let Coach Church know that yes, Shelby exhibits a lot of great traits, but he talked about her showing leadership with the young kids, but I also think it's an example of a great sister and a great mom and a great dad, and what happens when a family works together, great things happen. So I wanted to congratulate the entire family. And lastly, I wanted to let the students, both the merit finalists, the athletes, the artistics, all of them, thank them for all their efforts and remind them how proud we are of you. I don't think you hear that enough, so it's important to me to let you know that we are very proud of you. There was a little boy, approximately a year and a half maybe, and his dad, and they were in the back, and they were watching, and I could tell that that little boy could now set his mind, and he's trying to decide whether he wants to excel in academics, whether he wants to excel in sports, whether he wants to be a swimmer, whether he wants to play soccer. I think Dad is expecting him to wrestle. But that's the kind of example you all are, and I wanted to let you know that we all are very proud of you for setting that example. So again, congratulations and thank you very much. What is next, Dr. Ryba?
Well, what we'd like to do before we will give everybody a break to go on about their evening, but not yet. Not yet. We have one more. It's a human resource item, but it's an exciting item for us as we always, whenever we have to bring a new administrator on board. So we have a new principal recommendation for Chapman Elementary. As we know, Amy Pinney has been promoted to be our supervisor of elementary curriculum. So over the last month, we've been searching for a new principal at Chapman Elementary School, and we have that recommendation for you tonight. So I'm going to turn over to Jenny Pelko, who's going to do the introduction.
Thank you, Dr. Ryba. So tonight, I'm just thrilled to announce that pending your approval, our new principal of Chapman Elementary will be Mrs. Kaylee Harrell. Kaylee was selected over 90 plus applicants I think we had in the process, and just going through each step in the process of the interview process, every time we spoke with her, we could see how her experience, her expertise, her values align so much with the work that we're already doing here in Strongsville City Schools. So many things that she shared with us are just going to hopefully have a seamless transition into the work we do here. So we're really excited to have her on board. Kaylee has been an elementary principal in Worcester for the last 5 years. She's also taught 2nd and 3rd grade in Worcester. And when I spoke with her superintendent and did references, just as soon as I called, he said, "Don't take her, please don't take her, don't take her. You're taking my best." And so we're just thrilled to welcome her to our district. The gentleman you saw, Mr. Micko, and the little boy are Kaylee's husband, Craig, and her son, Kellen. And so we are excited because they want to become not only part of Chapman Elementary family, but also our Strongsville community. And so they have strong family ties here. Kaylee actually went to Strongsville City Schools. She graduated from Brunswick, but we won't hold that against her because she's coming back to us. So I would like to invite Kaylee up to the podium at this time, and she would like to say a few words.
Good evening, Dr. Ryba, Jenny, thank you so much, members of the board. I am so honored and excited for this incredible opportunity and to be able to return home and serve the Strongsville community. I couldn't be more excited, and I look forward to meeting the students, staff, and families at Chapman Elementary and building strong relationships and returning home to Strongsville. Thank you again for the opportunity.
So Kaylee, welcome aboard. We're looking forward to having you as part of our team. And I'm sure there's plenty of realtors who will help you find a home.
Back over to you.
Okay, so now we're going to jump back and follow our regular agenda. Before I continue too deeply, it is a homework night, so if anyone needs to escape, now is a good time to do it.
I mean, us too. I got homework.
What's that?
Okay, next on our agenda is our district goals. Our district goals remain the same: academic achievement and growth, financial prudence, and community engagement. And although I usually have a short story or short vignette to highlight that, I think our recognition today did a great job of highlighting academic achievement and growth. So I will save community engagement for our next meeting. I do have reason for public comment. I have a few slips here. First, I have Deborah Yarwood. Deborah, would you approach the podium? Let us know your name, address, and you have approximately 3 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me okay? Yeah. My name is Deborah Yarwood, and my address is 16507 Strongsville 44136. 16507 Selby Circle, Strongsville 44136. Should I get started?
Yep, you're good to go.
So, my name is Deborah Yarwood, and I am a member of the Athletic Boosters Board and mother of an upcoming senior, John Yarwood. I am here as a representative of many concerned and deeply disappointed parents about the non-renewal of Coach Nappick's cross-country contract and the lack of integrity by which our running programs have been run under Mr. Denny Ziegler, the athletic director. In fall 2020, Coach Nappick raised the bar for all Strongsville coaches, encouraging strong academic performance, keeping all cross-country boys healthy during COVID, and one of the few teams that never had to quarantine. He created and optimized a new home high school and middle school cross-country course. He worked with other teams and coaches to create a cross-country schedule when all the big invitationals were forced to cancel to give our boys a chance to run every weekend. He has over 30 years of cross-country experience at Strongsville, building an elite running program. The boys' times improved during the season, and they were healthy for practice and meets. In pursuing a reason for Coach Nappick's departure, I was told that there were various reasons, but the primary reason is that he did things in his own way. He was not embraced by this administration, and that you were pursuing younger coaches. For a 30-plus year dedicated, loyal coach to be shown the door this way is completely unacceptable. This current administration is seen as tolerating employing coaches that cheat. If the standard is to win at any cost, I can see why Coach Nappick was shown the door and fell out of favor. He gives 100% to win, but always abiding by the rules. In the fall of 2019, the girls' cross-country coach made a conscious decision to cheat and knowingly break state rules on a minimum number of practices to run an athlete, potentially jeopardizing her safety. The outcome, it caused the athlete to be disqualified, the girls' team to have hard feeling towards a newcomer, and outraged parents. The administration, including Mr. Ziegler, seemed more concerned with finding the whistleblower rather than taking any corrective actions towards the coach. who is still actively employed. I am requesting a complete review of Mr. Ziegler's actions as athletic director. As a Strongsville community, we need an AD who will serve the best interest of Strongsville athletics. Successful athletic programs build succession planning into their coaching staffs. Coach Napick could work with a younger coach to successfully transition the program as he plans for retirement, allowing for a smooth transition for our program. By your own admission, Coach Napick has not changed, so why, after 30 more years of service and outstanding results, would he no longer fit in the Strongsville cross-country program? As far as him being set in his ways, I saw nothing but flexibility and adaptability on his part when faced with the COVID environment in fall 2020. There is only one notable difference, and that is Mr. Ziegler. I have spent many hours in the presence of Coach Napick interacting with the team, and I have only the highest praise. He can be tough and demanding, but he has challenged my son to become the best he can be. I ask for each of you to uphold the integrity of the position that is trusted to you by the voters who elect you, and to further investigate Mr. Ziegler, as well as to overturn the decision on Coach Napick not returning as a cross-country coach at Strongsville for the fall 2021 season. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Joe Yarwood. Joe, name, address, and you have approximately 3 minutes.
Thank you for hearing me. My name is Joe Yarwood, 16507 Selby Circle, Strongsville, Ohio. I know as a school board member, your job is not to micromanage the day-to-day school activities and personnel decisions of the administration, and 99 out of 100 times, you respect their decision with your approval. I am asking you, for the cross-country team's sake, that you make the removal of Mike Napick as cross-country coach the 1 out of 100 and investigate their decision. The parents of the runners have followed the appropriate chain of command, including emails to the athletic director, principal, and superintendent to try and get answers, but only received one very generic response on this matter. Not renewing Mike Napick is wrong. My first impression of Strongsville City Schools was meeting Coach Napick at summer camp, where he welcomed my son John with enthusiasm, even though John was not a very strong runner. Coach worked with John and had a plan to make him better. John immediately took to Coach Napick's infectious, upbeat attitude, work ethic, and dedication. Because of Coach Napick, I am proud to say that John is now one of Strongsville's better runners. My first impression of Strongsville's administration came when I found out that Coach Napick would not be returning to Trek. When I found out that he was replaced by a coach who was previously fired by Strongsville, I immediately went to the athletic office to see if Mr. Ziegler would explain his decision. While I was sitting outside of his office, I could not believe the profanity-laced rant coming from his office. It was loud enough to make me feel very uncomfortable, and I remember thinking, what if a student was waiting to speak to him? To be fair, I don't believe Mr. Ziegler was the one swearing. It was a local businessman who is a coach for the district. He was using this language to describe the board-level administrators who apparently negotiated a bad deal having to do with advertising on the scoreboard. I know a lot of coaches, and I trust their professional opinions about Coach Napick's replacement. Every coach said that the newly hired coach was bad news and that they would not let their children run for them. I'm not here to bash other coaches. I'm only telling you this to show the lack of good decision-making within the athletic department. I requested all of Coach Napick's coaching and evaluation files and received them on April 18th, 2020. I thoroughly read them and found absolutely nothing that merits his removal. Whoever is making the final decision, please know that you are hurting not only my son, but the entire boys cross-country program. You will not find a better coach to replace him. Younger does not equal better. Coach Napick is a role model to our children and plays by and within the rules set forth by the Ohio High School Athletic Association. That cannot be said of other coaches who are still employed at Strongsville. He is a great asset to Strongsville. You have the power to make this right. Please don't take the easy way out, and we beg you to please investigate and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next is Dan Martin. Dan, name, address, and you have approximately 3 minutes.
Hi there, Dan Martin, 12611 Calumet Circle. This might be a tad awkward. I came here because I knew it was recognition night. And I wanted to take some time to recognize Denny Ziegler and the work he's done. I had 3 girls go through the school system here. I found out tonight my daughter, who I thought was #1 ever, is #2. And I can tolerate that. She deserves it. I was the president of the Athletic Boosters for the last 4 years, now Keith Housem. And I've had the time, I still volunteer coach, and I am a businessman, so if I swore, it happens. But I wanted to take some time because I've worked with, I think, 4 athletic directors since I've been here. Ray, Eversole, Paul Moses originally, then Andy, and then Ray, and now Denny. And they've all been great people. I've enjoyed working with every one of them. But Denny holds a special place for me because Denny's a great person. And, you know, he's done a lot already while he's been here. Him and I worked a lot together on fundraising, which, as you guys know, has been a home run. He has been caring about things that I wouldn't believe an AD to care about. He has been communicative with the coaches and the athletes. I've seen him handle situations. It's not an easy job. We all know that. That's why we've had 4 in the time I've been here. But he's worked through some very difficult situations. His ethics are high. He has pushed for multi-sport athletes, as some of you folks have multi-sport athletes here, which has been a big push of mine. I think that's why we're successful. I think he supports the coaches in a way that I appreciate as a volunteer coach. And again, as I said, the fundraising has been a home run. You know, you cannot have the success we've had and look at tonight as a example of the success of the athletes and the students in the arts, in sports, and academics without a team. Bill Wingler and Denny have done a great job, and I was proud to work for them. So tonight I just wanted to take a few minutes to recognize Denny Ziegler for the work that he's done and put the kids and the coaches in a position to succeed. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. So I will say on behalf of the board, our job is to listen. We listen closely. We don't rubber stamp anything, and we do have your contact information, so you can expect a response. Thank you. Next on our agenda is number 7, approval of minutes. For approval are the March 1st, March 18th, and April 1st Board of Education meetings. All district video and audio recordings are permanent part of the minutes and available on our website. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Hausum. Any discussion? Mr. Anagnostou, take the roll.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mrs. Salee?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes, and the motion carries. George, you're up with treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. I have a few items for your consideration tonight. The first item in item A, grant approvals. These are 2 grants given by the Strongsville Education Foundation. One is for a theater class grant for $1,000, which will be deposited in the Drama Club student activity account. And the second is the SEF Growing Mustangs Garden, which will be deposited into the local grants fund for the SEF for $418.83. And this will go in conjunctions with a class that Mr. Brian Edmonds is teaching here at the high school. Next is the item B is the amended appropriations for fiscal year 21, which can be found in Exhibit A. This is the only change in the exhibit is to amend the budget for the grants. And then the final item for your consideration is an invoice order approval for an after-the-fact PO. And that concludes my report.
Anyone have any questions for George? Cameron, you're up.
First item up for your consideration is an extension agreement with Locals 290 and 028 of the Ohio Association of Public School Employees. Be resolved upon my recommendation that the Strongsville Board of Education ratifies the 3-year extension agreement with Locals 290 and 028 of OPSI, effective July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Hausum. Any discussion?
Mr. Micko, just to give a little clarity, I'm excited to share this recommendation with the board. We've been working with our support staff over the past few months, and what an extension agreement is it's just that. It's taking the current agreement that we've negotiated in the past, extending it for 3 years. There is an annual 2% increase as a part of that agreement, but the rest of the contract remains the same. And that contract, we spent a lot of time negotiating the last time we negotiated, and we feel it's a fair contract for the district and a fair contract for our employees. So I just wanted to give a little more context of what the agreement has entailed in it.
Well, you stole my thunder.
Well, I apologize.
But what I'd like to add on to it is our thanks to our partners with OPSI. They're our custodians, our bus drivers, our aides, our monitors, just about everybody who isn't a teacher in one form or another, and they're incredibly important to the work we do. And to be able to say that we have another 3 years, I think is a good thing for the community to hear. The amount of time that we put into negotiating previous contracts is starting to bear fruit. It is reasonable to the employees, it is reasonable to the administration, and just as important, it's reasonable to the taxpayer. Before we vote on it, I will ask George to opine on whether we can afford it and is it financially prudent.
Yes, it was, when we do these negotiations, we look at the impact of our 5-year forecast, and as we were analyzing the increases, we ran it through the 5-year forecast, and it's something that the district can afford within the period of the forecast.
And at least for me, and I'm sure for everyone, it's important that the public knows that it is financially sustainable. It is something we can afford. It doesn't put us in a bad position. So I'm excited and happy to support it. Any other comments? Take the roll.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ali?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes, and the motion does carry.
Continuing on to the next item, it's a discussion item for virtual learning planning for next school year. So if you remember a couple meetings ago, I shared with you the work we were doing and some initial ideas in terms of virtual learning. And when we talk about virtual learning, we have two programs. We have asynchronous, which means it's a computer-based system. There's really no live. There's a teacher that helps support, but it's more of a tutor-like than live instruction. So that's something that we've had for a number of years. We've had it this year. We are going to continue to have it next year. So in terms of the programs, Lincoln Learning, Edmentum, those are programs that we'll continue to have in future years. But the question was, what do we do with the synchronous option? The synchronous option is that we have a live teacher providing instruction to students. This year we call it SES Connects. We have Solo 2.0. Those are examples of synchronous learning. And so we've been discussing what do we want to do with that moving forward. So we sent out a survey to parents a month or so ago and said, what's your interest? And what we received back is about, on average, 1 to 2 students per grade level were interested in a synchronous option, an SES Connects option. That was not enough to support that program. Then we met with focus groups. So we had 4 focus groups that we met with, I think, throughout the month of March and into April. One of those groups was, all families that had virtual learners. And so one of the questions we asked was, what conditions need to be present for your students to come back to school for in-person learning? This is not mathematically, documented, but I would say about 80 to 90% of the families said, if things are the way they are right now, I'm planning to have my child return to school. They wanted to see what spring break travel did. They wanted to see what summer travel did. They wanted to see what's happening with the variant strains and where that's at. But you had the majority of them that were planning on their students coming back to school next year. So we did another survey. This Monday I put out, kind of the final ask of we need to know. And why do we need to know right now? Is because the synchronous option requires staff. We've talked with our teachers. We have 2 teacher work groups that we've been working with for about a month that are currently working in some aspect of the synchronous program. And we've said, what have you learned? What do we need to do? And so what we've learned is that, especially if you go into year 2 of remote learning or synchronous learning, we did a nice job this year. I'm proud of the work that we did. But when you take a look at the impact of synchronous learning in 2 years, especially when you're looking at K to 12, you've got to look at how can we enhance it to get as close as we can to in-person learning. And what became clear out of those discussions is that we need a teacher dedicated to those virtual students. So in SES Connects in K to 5, we have that, right? So that would be, we would have a teacher that would have a classroom and those learners would be virtual. In 6 through 12, what we have this year is a combination of in-person and virtual. In that, somebody's not getting 100% of the attention. And going into year 2, one of the things that we talked about is we need our students in grades 6 to 12 to get that attention. How do you make that work at the secondary level? You start now in terms of scheduling and say, instead of teaching 5 in-person classes, you're going to do 4 in-person and 1 virtual. So those are decisions we need to make now to schedule and to allocate staff. I shared this with the board earlier today, but I'm just going to go from kindergarten to 12th grade. Here's the yeses in count of students. So starting with kindergarten, we have 6 students that said yes, they're definitely in. Then going on, 3, 8, 3, 4, 3, 6, 5, 3, 2, 5, 3, 2. So when you take a look at that, that's a total of 53 yeses for all of our district. And you're averaging the range of the highest in 2nd grade was 8, the lowest in a variety of places is 2. That's not sustainable to have a class of 2. Even when you take the maybes and you add in the maybes, which range from 0 to the highest is 11, if we don't have all of those maybes become yeses, we're still at a number that's not financially prudent, it's not sustainable. And even when you talk to the teachers, if you have a class of, I joked with the teachers to say, we all say lower class sizes, right? We love lower class sizes, but there becomes a point where there's no conversation because you just have so few students, it's difficult to have a meaningful dialogue. And so we would need all of these maybes to become yeses. If you just compare right now we have 363 students K to 12 in SES Connects. We have 101 students at the K to 5 level in Solo 2.0. So 464 of our students are in a virtual learning synchronous platform. We have 310 students that are in an asynchronous program. So put that together, 774 students, that gets to about our 14-15% range where we're at. Right now, we're looking at 24 yeses for asynchronous next year, 53 yeses for synchronous next year. So, Mr. Micko, I think you brought up the point last time I talked about this, and it was a valid point of it's a lot of energy, time, effort, capital to continue down this path to plan. So what I'm recommending to the board is that we continue those conversations with our work group to the point where we have a plan that should we need to, we could possibly implement it next year. So I'm not saying we stop all discussions, but it's a different mindset when you say, we are really going to do this versus we need a plan in case we need to do this. So my recommendation would be that next year we offer the asynchronous program. We do not move forward with the synchronous, the SES Connects program, simply due to lack of interest. And then, I work with the work groups, and the team that we have work with the work groups to have a plan that's in place that should something happen where we have a spike or we have a need or we see that we get back to, current numbers of low 20s to mid 20s in each grade level that need something, that we would be nimble enough to be able to do that. So I wanted to give that update. That's kind of my thoughts right now, what I wanted to share with the board, and then I'll get any insights or thoughts that the group has.
Questions?
I have a question. How would it work if we did SCS Connects, took a teacher from each school and used the setup where the computer is in one class? So if there's 2 students or 5 students that want to do SCS Connects, they would all go to one school.
So right now that we could do that. We could do that, but if we would do SCS Connects, we would have to hire an additional teacher for 5 students. And so that would be, so if we take a look, we're taking a look at every building. So right now, I'll use first grade. Right now, there's 3 definite yeses for first grade. So that's Chapman, Kinsner, Muraski, Sarrar, Whitney. All of them together, there's only 3 that said yes.
But like would you have to hire a teacher if they were all, if it was already a teacher in Sarrar, a 3rd grade teacher, and just put the computer in there and just have them use that one teacher, or that's not it?
So then that becomes the educational philosophy discussion of, if we have 3 first graders that are online without a direct teacher helping them to learn how to read, to learn phonics, to learn number sense, are we really serving the best interest of that child and preparing them for success? I'm going to turn to Aaron. I mean, these are. What's that? Good save. Good save, Aaron.
I think you've just described the problem with SES Connects.
But Aaron, we've talked about what's educationally sound for our youngest learners, and the idea of having just a virtual setting without this SES Connects teacher, that would be extremely difficult.
It would, which is also why we want to implement the live component, even if they do the legal learning.
Yeah. So what Aaron is talking about is, what we've also said is, even for that asynchronous option, we said having our youngest learners just do the asynchronous option, which what you're describing, Sherry, would be very similar to that. Except you're getting the asynchronous option from one of our teachers. Is that we would need to look at how can we help supplement that with some additional reading support, things of that nature. So academically, we're not recommending that, especially at that level, that it would be in the best interest of the kids to build those foundational skills to just be an observer. What we're looking at is, and for the asynchronous option next year. So one of the arguments could be, well, then why are we letting the students do the asynchronous option? Well, there's always been reasons that's been in the best interest of the family, whether it be medical, mental health, whether it just be academically, and how the family works. And we're coming back to normal numbers there. When we take a look at the asynchronous yeses, as of right now, and I'm just going to go through K to 5, 2, 1, 2, 2, 0, 2. That's total students in each grade level around the district. That gets to that typical number we're at with asynchronous options. And there's usually supports at home or things of that nature to help support our students. So that, but we are looking to bolster that, but that's one of the reasons, it's worked for a certain student or family.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of being able to flip the switch if need be. I think that's going to be extremely important to have, not only to continue our advancement in that area and supporting students that potentially can't be in the classroom for an extended period of time and so forth. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I'd love to see how we can continue to advance that as much as possible.
Sure.
I think with the asynchronous option, one of the things we heard this year was they felt really disconnected to the school. Is the plan to continue the newsletters and the connectivity opportunities for those families, even at the lower numbers, for the families that choose the asynchronous?
Yeah, Seth, I think that's a great point. We've learned a lot this year, especially with the numbers we've had of how we have to build those connections. We established, kind of a directory of folks in that so they can build their own networks as well. But those are things that would definitely continue to allow opportunities for them to be a part of the school in those areas that they can be, even if they're going through the asynchronous option, even if it's small numbers.
Okay,
Yeah.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of Seth's comments. I think the things that we learned to do better, there's no reason for us to stop doing better. So the things that we've done with, whether it's asynchronous or SCS Connects, adopting some of the more modern tools as far as communication, et cetera, the technology, we shouldn't stop that. But from a basic planning standpoint, I think it's reasonable that based on the interest, we shouldn't build something that doesn't have demand. And those numbers, we don't have that demand. The two things I would, and I know we've thought of these things, but as far as the parents that replied in the survey that they were definite SCS Connects, I can guess what their concerns are, but I'm only guessing. And I think it would be valuable for us to reach out to them it's a small enough number that we can reach out to them on an individual basis and discuss what are your true concerns. And those true concerns might lead them towards asynchronous, or those true concerns, if they're addressed through conversation, may say, oh, now I'm comfortable sending my child back to school in person. So I think that would be a healthy exercise for us. But as far as I'm comfortable that, like Cameron said, we're not saying no to SCS Connects, but we're not going to invest the planning time as far as budget is concerned, as far as trying to line up hiring bodies for it, et cetera. But it's incumbent on us as a district, like everybody else, to be prepared for if the shoe falls.
Any other thoughts before I move on to the next item?
Move on.
All right. I want to ask Steve Reckner to come up to the podium. As we talked about last time, we talked about needlepoint ionization. And Steve, a couple of things that were asked was, research about cost analysis side by side between MERV 13s and needlepoint ionization, and talking to EHOVI. So Steve is going to kind of give an update, and if anybody has any other questions that research is ongoing, he can still continue to do that. So Steve?
So to update some of the questions that I had, I did have a conversation with my counterpart at EHOVI. He stated that they are very pleased with the needlepoint ionization. They have sensors that they've installed to support the idea of the particles in the air. They've been doing studies. He says every metric that they've been able to come up with there, they have seen an improvement in air quality. He said they actually had an issue where the custodians were seeing more dust on the ground because some of those particles were being bombarded, and we talked about how it joins together and it drops out of the breathing zone. So they were noticing that they're getting more dust on the floor, dust bunnies, I guess, on the floor that they were having to clean up. They did notice an uptick in the filters that they had when they were changing them. They were a little dirtier than usual. So every viewpoint that they have, every metric that they have is saying that needlepoint ionization is working in their buildings to improve the air quality. The research I've been able to find, the negatives with needlepoint is that they're still doing more testing with it, especially ASHRAE. They are not prepared at this point to come out and say that this is the silver bullet, but any other technology they've had the same issue with, whether it be just changing the filters out, whether it be UV lighting, whether it be converting to a HEPA filter, or just increasing the air exchange. They have not found the silver bullet yet, but they are they're just recommending what they're recommending, that you do something to improve the air quality and move closer to MERV 13 as possible. And everything that they've had that I can find is saying that moving to MERV 13 is going to change your HVAC units if you do it just through the filters. So it brings me to my second point. I've been dealing with some of the vendors. They're still getting me numbers. So some of this is still on hold. I didn't want to rush in with just a bunch of wild guesses, but I can get you some real numbers as soon as possible to answer those questions of lining it up. What would it be at all of our schools? Just putting in MERV 13s, retrofitting, what would that cost be versus needle point bipolar ionization? So that one's still outstanding. And I think that takes care of 2 of the 3 at this point. So there is the biggest drawback with needle point is at one point in time they were concerned about the chemical reaction in producing ozone, which of course is harmful. But everything that I've seen is that since the 2000s on, the technology has caught up where that's not an issue anymore. Rest assured, I've talked to my vendors about that, and I would have a UL rating, which is basically saying that it's so many parts per million in the atmosphere of what the ozone would be, the production of ozone. So that is something I'm taking seriously. That's something I'll take into consideration before making any purchase to ensure that we do not have any kind of ozone being created and emitted in our buildings.
Any questions for Steve?
Steve, I know Asher is making this recommendation right now, but it's not a standard we need to be at to be compliant as of right now, correct?
Correct.
Is there a sense or a feeling that that is coming, or kind of, I know it's looking at a crystal ball type of thing, but just from the conversations you've had and what you've heard?
No one is willing to say that they're going to say MERV 13 is the new standard. What everyone is, and by everyone I mean the vendors and people I've talked to that are in the industry, and then my counterparts, other districts, there is going to be a push of what did you do to improve air quality. That's going to be the biggest push. I don't know if MERV 13 is ever going to be like the gold standard from ASHRAE, but they definitely are going to start asking questions, and by they I mean government entities and community is going to start saying, what do we do to improve air quality? And this is one of those ways that we could do that. Again, the biggest thing, and I can appreciate it because that's what you guys paid me to do, and that's my business is business. So I want to see what the side-by-side comparison is with just converting versus needle point. So that's the biggest question for me. But to answer your question, I don't see ASHRAE ever coming out with that specific statement. They never made that statement about MERV 8s. They just always recommended, and then they recommended to the point where it became industry standard. Their recommendations do carry a lot of weight, but they never really will say this is definitively what you have to keep your doors open.
And just to clarify, this can be, the extra money can be used towards this or cannot? I can't remember, I'm sorry.
Yes.
It can be?
As it's being defined right now.
The ESSER 2 can.
Okay.
We don't know yet about the ESSER 3, but the ESSER 2, you can use it for this.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Steve on this topic?
I was going to say, I think it's incumbent by the next board meeting. If you have more questions for Steve, avail yourself. But let's give him some direction so that he's not continuing to research to finally say we're not interested.
Yeah, thank you.
If that seems reasonable.
That does. Steve, if you just want to go to your report.
All right. Before I do that, I would like to say I would like to sing the praises of our maintenance department for a few minutes. I think it's appropriate. I know it's not on the agenda, and hopefully this doesn't show up on evaluation. But I want to sing the praises of our maintenance department. On Friday, we received word late Friday afternoon that we had a huge issue over at Whitney Elementary. It turns out that one of our main sewer lines was completely blocked. We had sewage coming up into the kitchen, some of the restrooms. It was completely overblown in some areas. It wasn't like an eruption. It was more like we just had sewage going into the toilets. It never spilled out and was on the walls or anything like that. So We identified
Tell
that
us
on
more.
Friday.
Steve, let's continue
I have
on.
a presentation if you wish to see. I have a presentation. Some pictures. Because Keith and the rest of the maintenance department acted so quickly, we were able to identify the problem. We did have to shut down on Monday, but we have really good guys. We have really good equipment. We're able to get in the back of the building to isolate the issue. We were able to open up half the building. I also have to sing the praises of our city. Joe Walker, my counterpart there. Fortunately or unfortunately for him, I have his number on my cell phone, and I called him right away. We had dug a hole about 8 feet deep, about 30 feet wide, and the rain and everything else made that hole so unstable. It started to fall in, and of course we worked safely, so no one was in danger. But the hole did fall in. We had to get bigger equipment. So the city was on. I called Joe. He had someone out there right away. So we were able to get that done. We were open on Tuesday, and the line was completely cleared and repaired by school start on Wednesday. And that's because they were there, they were on the spot, they did a great job, and something that would have cost us a lot of money to third party only ended up costing us about $1,500 in repair. Sorry. I just want to sing their praises because they did a great job, and I was there with them. I know how expensive those kind of repairs can be, and they were able to save the district, the taxpayers, a lot of money and do it quickly and efficiently so we can get school back open and only miss that one day. So thank you for listening to that.
Steve, I know we do appreciate the partnership with the city. Again, it's a long-standing partnership. It goes both ways, but it saves the taxpayer money. It lets us do things efficiently and quickly. I know somebody, I don't remember when, but someone suggested a bunch of porta potties temporarily, and cooler heads prevailed, and we used the tools from the city, and were able to get that taken care of quickly. So extend our thanks to them.
Okay. The gifts that are on the agenda under business services, Staples donated 74 12-packs of Crayola colored pencils, 74 24-packs of Crayola crayons, 107 2-pocket folders, and 74 2-ounce hand sanitizers with an approximate combined value of $782 to Sarar Elementary School. Mrs. Marge Talbillion, donated $50 in memory of Mike Tabillion, grandfather of freshman student Lily Vassell. Donation is to be used for the orchestra and symphony. Kinsner PTA donated $26,825 to be used to build a new section of the Kinsner Elementary School playground, replacing half of the current playground. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
And as Aaron's coming up, just special thanks to all of the folks that donate gifts to our school district, but congratulations to the Kinsner PTA. That's a phenomenal fundraising effort to add on to their playground. So to all of our PTAs, thank you for your partnership, and congratulations to the Kinsner community and PTA for that outstanding new addition that should be there in the fall. All right, Erin.
Hi, good evening. I can see and hear you now. There are 3 items tonight under curriculum. First one is a student-teacher affiliation agreement. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the affiliation agreement between Baldwin-Wallace University and Strongsville City Schools be approved as presented in Exhibit B. Item 2 is our Strongsville Middle School Program of Studies. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Strongsville Middle School Program of Studies for the 21-22 school year be approved. And item 3 is a revision to dates for our Strongsville High School Spanish students and their trip to Spain. The revision is to the agenda from February 20th of 2020. Item C, curriculum for Strongsville High School Spanish students trip to Spain. We are going to change those dates now to from June 7th through 16th, 2021 to June 20, 28, 2022.
Thank you, Aaron.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have Andy Trujillo, Director of Student Services, with his report. Andy?
Good evening, members of the board. This evening for your consideration, we have extended school year program for students with disabilities. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent and the Board of Education approves extended school year program for students with disabilities, preschool and school age at Strongsville Middle School for the dates listed below, June 22nd to July 22nd. Any questions about that?
Thank you, Andy.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have Jenny with our Human Resource Report.
Thank you. I have the following items under Human Resources this evening for your consideration. We have the resignation of one of our leadership staff. Kyle Kiffer, our Assistant Treasurer, has resigned. We wish him all the best in his new position as Treasurer. We also have resignations under certificated staff. Under E2, a retirement for a non-certificated staff. Under E3, appointment for an administrative staff. So again, this is Kaylee Harrell, elementary school principal, will be a 2-year contract, and it will be effective August 1st. She will also have 5 days in July to transition to the new position. Continuing appointments for non-certificated staff, appointment for certificated substitute, appointments for non-certificated substitute, appointments for certificated home instruction tutors. Under E4, changes in hours for non-certificated staff. Under E5, change in status for non-certificated staff. Under E6, a stipend for leadership. Stipends for our summer school administrators. Under E7, continuing contracts for non-certificated staff. Under E8, medical leaves for certificated staff and medical leaves for non-certificated staff. Under E9, unpaid leave for non-certificated staff. Under E10, volunteer for our sports. And under E11, we have a termination of a non-certificated staff.
Thank you, Jenny. Next up, we have our Director of Instructional Technology, Dave Binkley, with his report for the month. Dave?
Thank you, Dr. Ryba. Tonight I have a couple items for you. The first one is our Meta Solutions Master Service Agreement for Schedule 1 and Schedule 2. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that Schedule 1 of the agreement between Meta Solutions and the Strongsville City Schools be approved to provide information technology services for 2021-2022, an annual cost of $91,086.50. There is a 2% discount for early payment, reducing the cost to $89,264.77. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that Schedule 2 of the agreement between Meta Solutions and Strongsville City Schools be approved to provide Info Ohio library services for 2021-2022 at the cost of $15,770.20. That's in Exhibit C. Item for number 2, Southeast Security. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the agreement between Southeast Security and the Strongsville City Schools to replace and configure access points, provide training, and perform a wireless survey after installation at Chapman, Sarrar, and Whitney Elementary Schools. In addition, Southeast Security will replace cabling to access points and upgrade switches to multi-gigabit Ethernet ports at Kinsner and Muraski Elementary Schools at a total cost of $158,522.15, and this is subject to E-rate discount. It's Exhibit D. And then final site, website, and content management system provider contract. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the contract between Final Site and the Strongsville City Schools to provide website and content management system services for a period of 5 years at $8,800 per year and a one-time setup fee of $8,700. That's Exhibit E. Any questions?
Dave, can you just give a little bit of description? So number 2, I know is just one piece of a master plan. Can you give a little bit of commentary on the entire master plan?
So this is part of what our network manager Jim Hamblick calls this incremental continuous infrastructure improvement plan. So last year the first phase was really improving the wireless access points here at the high school. So I believe we put in somewhere around 150 access points in this building, and then we did the cabling for Chapman, Sarrar, and Whitney. Part 2, which is this year, is we're putting in new access points at Chapman, Whitney, and Sarrar, and then doing the cabling for Muraski and Kinsner. Next year, we will hopefully be able to continue this on and do the access points for those 2 buildings, and then possibly through surveying some things, maybe even improve other parts of the district that are instructional buildings, because this is part of the E-rate discount or E-rate program, and that has to be an instructional building to use those funds.
So I know the entire board is really excited, so can you go line by line through the purchase order for us?
You really want me to? I can find it in here.
You're okay, Dave.
Okay.
Dave, if you could talk about, though, this helps set us up because we have about 1 gigabyte of bandwidth right now, right?
Correct.
And so talk a little bit about kind of where you want to move and how this kind of helps us to increase the bandwidth.
So currently we are at 1. If we ever wanted to improve to 2 for our services with Milwaukee, our internet provider, our current infrastructure would not allow that. So this does set us up to increase our bandwidth for all of our buildings by going forward. And that is actually on the infrastructure plan to review that next year. Because our contract is running up, I believe it's either next year or the year after. But we are able to upgrade at any time as long as our infrastructure can hold it or withstand the change to the higher speed, and we're willing to pay the extra fee.
All good news. And then I don't know who wants to comment a little bit about number 3, but that's good news also that we should explain in a little more depth.
So, we went through the process this year. Our current website hasn't had a theme change or a significant upgrade in a couple years. So we had a bunch of discussions with different vendors. Final Site is one that is growing in Ohio, but has been around for a while nationally. And so our idea is to create a more modern, a little more clean, a little bit easier to find information website for all of our stakeholders. And then hopefully also continue to actually improve our ADA compliance. We are ADA compliant, but this content management system allows it to go even further than what we're doing right now, so that we will always be up to date with any changes that come our way.
And Dave, talk a little bit about the timeline.
The goal is, once the contract is signed, both through their means and through our internal team working on this, is to hopefully have it up and ready to go at the beginning of August for the new academic school year, is the plan as of now.
That's good news, and we're going to save money at the same time. So we're going to improve our website. We're going to spend less to improve our website over time. So that's all good news, and I'm confident they'll be using a responsive framework, so it'll work well, whether it's on a desktop or on a phone or a tablet or what have you.
Correct. It is a responsive design, and that's one of the nice things that we liked about their system, was that the process of uploading images and content for that responsive design was pretty intuitive compared to some of the other vendors out there.
So kudos to you and your team, kudos to Dan, but we're all excited and looking forward to the upgrades.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And that concludes my report.
Any other questions for Dr. Ryba? Mrs. Bissell, report on Polaris Career Center.
Yes. A couple of things to note. One, they're not going to be having their normal end of the year ceremony this year. That's typically indoors at Grace Church. Just with the COVID restrictions and the capacity issues, they're not going to hold that, but they will be acknowledging their students virtually and distributing certificates as necessary. Something to be really excited about for our students here. They just released the names of the National Technical Honor Society awards, and there were approximately 16 of our students on that list. So congratulations to those students. I don't know yet whether those are public, so I won't share them here, but I will bring them to a future meeting. And then the enrollment is still a bit down for Polaris this year, which it stands to reason with the kind of year we've had. But by comparison with other career centers around, their enrollment looks really good. So they're pleased and excited about starting another school year that looks probably a little more normal than this year. Unless anyone has any questions, that concludes my report.
Isn't there a 9th grade Advantage Night coming up
Yes.
on April
My
29th?
flyers came in the mail
at
today and
6:30.
didn't read them. Say it again, Rich.
April 29th at 6:30, but double check the website because I'm doing that from memory. Sherry, I'm sorry, Mrs. Buckner Salid, you have a report on legislation.
Getting casual here. No, I just want to mention there was a meeting with the OSBA Board of Trustees, and there were questions posed about, what we've learned during the pandemic in terms of, and changes that were made, like graduation ceremonies. I know we changed our graduation ceremony from specifically at the Convocation Center to on our base here, and then graduation requirements and other changes that were made because of the pandemic. And there's been questions, proposing maybe changing the law, state laws, to kind of accommodate some of the things, like you said, that we've learned during the pandemic that are better. So, and some of the laws have to be changed, and like graduation requirements have to be changed in order for us to do those things. So that's the only thing I had. I wanted to mention that. So that concludes my report, unless you have something.
Well, thank you very much. I'm just going to highlight developments on two fronts. One, the House bill to revamp our report cards continues to work its way through the House. As expected, some people think some people who are smart and reasonable think that Dr. Ryba's work is excellent and should be passed without opposition, but there are different groups that want to take a look at it and offer some tweaks to it, so that process is ongoing. And then within the last week or 2 weeks, the Fair Funding Act, as expected, was rolled into House Bill 100? 110. 110 was rolled into House Bill 110, which is the state biennium budget. So we'll continue to work through that process to advocate for Strongsville. They did announce that no school district will experience any reduction in funding while this plan is phased in. And so the devil's always in the details, so we'll be paying close attention to make sure that Strongsville's interests are represented during the phase-in period along with after the phase-in period. But we continue to work on it, and it's promising, and it's good to hear that something will hopefully be done. And that concludes my report. Board liaison reports. City Council.
Yes, I come bearing exciting news mostly tonight about things that the city is able to put on this year that they weren't able to put on last year. So for all of these things, if you are interested in them or more information, please check out the city's website. But these include Safety Village, so that would be for current kindergartners who missed out on the opportunity to have the full Safety Town experience last summer. There's a one-day Safety Village program. Sign-ups are online for that. And then Safety Town for incoming kindergartners is also open for registration. You can find that under the police tab on the website. There's a program that's offered in the summertime with the fire department. 4th and 5th grade students can spend a day doing this camp where they get to learn about what it means to be in a fire person. So if you have a 4th or 5th grader who might be interested in that, check out the website there. The rib burn-off is coming back, but they have shifted the dates. That'll be August 12th through 14th, so that'll be on the square. And then homecoming is also returning this summer, July 14th through 17th at Town Square as well. As of right now, because of restrictions, there is no parade. but the actual event with the rise and all that will appear in some form those days. And then you could also look forward to another movie night. That was something the city started 2 years ago, was very successful, and then of course we couldn't hold it last year. So that's also coming in August, the date's to be determined. And then for those of you who might be interested, the State of the City address is coming up on Tuesday, May 11th. That's a luncheon, so you can go on the website if you're interested in signing up to participate in that, and they will be following all COVID protocols and such to make that a safe luncheon event. And finally, just because every time we drive past Target, my kids ask me when that construction is going to be done, I will share with you that they did share that date. The contract is up July 31st. So that the hope is that they can stick to that date, and that will be out of our way, by the start of school next year. But unless there's any questions, that concludes my report.
Michelle, I know the State of the City is a luncheon, but I know it's always important to the mayor that everyone understands you don't have to sign up for the luncheon to attend. You can just attend to hear his comments, correct?
They did not say that, but I trust you.
As long as someone does. Strongsville Education Foundation. We have some exciting news. The raffle.
I want to talk first about their first raffle they just did. The NCAA tournament was very, very successful. They sold out of all their squares. They had 52 winners, and they said that they will continue to do this each year since they were able to raise so much money doing that. Their next raffle is a liquor basket raffle, Mr. Micko.
I'm
Make sure
excited.
you mark your calendar. They are selling tickets up until May 1st. So you can get 1 ticket for $5 or 6 tickets for $25, and you can find the link to buy those on their Facebook page or on their website. There was a lot of discussion about the numerous scholarships that they will be giving out at Senior Salute on May 13th. And then they discussed a grant for 4 of our Algebra 1 teachers at the high school to buy them more advanced Chromebooks. There was a discussion in that passed, so that will be on our agenda next month. And that concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
I'm excited for the spirited raffle.
I know you missed out on the NCAA.
The spirits raffle.
We got it.
And I promise when I win, I will share. Strongsville PTA Council.
This last meeting was, we had a speaker from the right at school and kind of discussed some of the same things that we had heard here at the board meeting. I want to note that the annual DC trip has been canceled. They kept pushing it back because they thought, maybe something will open up, but DC it really isn't allowing a large crowds at this time. So finally, they had to unfortunately cancel it. Then we discussed a little bit the plans for the senior prom, which is out. The prom is scheduled for June 6th, which is uncharacteristically after the graduation date, but this way that all the students who participate in sports will be able to make it, because in the past I've seen, 1 year at a track meet, I know the girls and boys.
It's every year.
Oh, that happens every year? Okay. The kids have to dress during the track meet for prom, so they're taking pictures on the field and rushing to track and maybe distracted during the meet. So maybe this year we won't have to do it, so maybe we'll have more success. And that's all we had for PTA, so I conclude my report.
I know I'm excited for the prom. I think it's going to be great, and I think having it later. I mean, everybody has reasonable insight, but I think having it later will allow us to have as much participation as possible and as safely as possible, following whatever rules we have to follow. And rumor has it after prom is going to be great also. And if you have nothing better to do and want to volunteer for after prom, the link is on the website. So make sure to volunteer. Seth, do you have an update on student achievement?
I do. I just want to say congrats to Jenna and the DECA program, as they had 15 students will be competing at nationals for DECA here in April. So quite an accomplishment for them to add to the accomplishments for tonight. And also, the drama club here at the high school on April 24th is going to present the Little Mermaid Junior. There's 45 students from the high school that are going to be putting that production on, 35 front of stage and 10 backstage. So should be exciting to watch that. I have no idea what the junior part is, but I'm intrigued to find out.
And isn't that a online only
Yes.
event that you need to get tickets for?
That is correct.
And it is one of those, you need to watch it when it happens, and it'll never happen again. So I suggest everybody pick one of the 2 dates. It's going to be great.
Yep. And that concludes my report.
Board committee reports. Finance committee?
Next meeting is April 26th, 6 p.m.
Thank you. Policy committee, our next meeting is to be announced. Facilities committee?
Next meeting, June 10th at 6:30 p.m. at the admin building.
And business advisory council committee?
We have a meeting coming up, finally, April 30th at 7:30 at the admin building.
All good things to hear. Next on our agenda is consent calendar. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of consent calendar at this point of the agenda means that all items appearing in the agenda with asterisks are adopted by one single motion unless requested otherwise. Do I have any otherwise? And I do not believe we had any corrections, so everything is as it is in the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Hausum. Any discussion? Hearing none, would you take the roll?
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Ms. Salee? Yes. Mr. Miko?
Yes, and the motion carries. Superintendent's timely information.
Well, Mr. Roberts did a wonderful job talking about the upcoming musical, so I am good to go on timely information.
Nice job, Seth. Board of Education Other, we have a few items. Reimbursable expenses, be it resolved by the Strongsville City Schools Board of Education, approve Sherry Buckner Sallee's reimbursable expenses as outlined in the exhibit. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? As always, I will compliment and thank all the board members who take their role seriously and learn as much as they can. George?
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mrs. Salee?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes, and the motion carries. And we continue, be it resolved that the Strongsville City School Boards of Education grants approval again for Sherry Buckner Sallee to attend the virtual OSBA Board Leadership Institute, April 23rd through the 24th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Hausum. Any discussion? Kudos again, Sherry. Please make sure that whatever you learn, you share with us. George?
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Ms. Salee?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes, and the motion carries. Do we have any others? Any other comments, notices? Meeting notification, our next meeting is May 6th, 2021 at the meeting room of the admin building. And then our next regular Board of Education meeting is May 20th, 7 p.m. in the auditorium of Strongsville High School. That's always a great meeting where we honor all our retirees. We do have need for executive session on the topics of
To consider the employment or dismissal of a public employee and to consider matters required to be kept confidential.
Are there any other topics? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, second by Mrs. Hausum. Any discussion? George?
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mrs. Salee?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes, the motion carries. We will go into executive session at 8:55. We have no expectation of any further business. Thank you, everyone, for your attention, and have a nice weekend.